Welcome. You've splash landed into this Prosecco-laden podcast, straight into the woo-woo pool with the crew of Ohm-g'ers. We're just a simple group of tragically imperfect and highly empathic BFFs, exploring a wide range of atypical topics with humor, grace, and curiosity. This is Ohm-g'ers. Hello, everybody, and welcome. You're here with a full bottle of Prosecco and the two Woo crew. This is
Ohm-g'ers, the podcast. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome. Today, our eyes and ears are on the Sparrow. Details forthcoming. Take it away, Brenda Sue.
All right. So I am so excited to introduce our guest today. She is Melissa Sparrow. And she is from up north up there, y'all. She's from Canada.
All about the cold.
Yeah. And we are so excited to have her here. I will give the little backstory because I met her first and asked her to come on the show. And I'm so excited to have you here. Like, literally so excited. So
she's so excited to be here.
I'm so happy. So I met Melissa through another one of my favorite podcasts, which is Psychic Story, which is a really good podcast. If anybody listens and, wants to check it out, it's a really good show. But she was telling a story about herself and meeting herself in another lifetime. And when she was telling the story, I was like, oh my God, wait just a minute. Let me just collect myself here. Because she described herself in Ireland in this beautiful green dress with this red flowing hair in the wind overlooking the ocean. And whenever I first started meditating, whenever they would say, okay, go to somewhere that feels good, I would go to this place in Ireland or Scotland. I didn't know where it was. But it was almost the same scene. Like I had this long red hair. I was wearing a pink dress. And the wind was like blowing in my hair and blowing the dress. And I was looking at the ocean. So I was like, I have got to have a session with this woman because I want to know what this is about. Like, I want to understand, like, this is just too weird to be just a coincidence, And so then I had an amazing session with her where it just confirmed everything that I have gotten over the years, like over the past 20 years, about my past lifetimes, about and interchanging two together, which I had past life regressions about the other one that kind of played into the same lifetime, but in a different perspective. So I'm curious, like whenever that happens and I have had those memories or that, those visions, is that the lifetime that is like speaking to me now?
Yes.
Okay.
So essentially what you're being shown is a lifetime that you're meant to remember right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually for a very specific reason. I think in your case, Brenda, it was to remind you of your beautiful spiritual gifts.
No.
Yeah. So oftentimes when we're in the Akashic Records, our guides will highlight lifetimes that we're meant to remember at this point in our journey and in this lifetime. And generally, it's usually to remind us of something that we're meant to do here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one funny thing about that vision that you saw about me living. So part of this also was that I had come from Georgia. I had lived on a plantation. My father was a slave owner. And I've had that vision myself in a past life regression. And I had this whole light bulb moment because my daughter Colleen, who is here today listening, when she was in like 7th grade, or 6th grade, I think, they were learning about slavery at school. And she came home and she was just in tears, sitting on the bed. She was telling me about how nobody was upset about it. And she was crying in class.
Right.
And as she's talking, I see a face form behind her on the wall. And it's an African-American face because you can see the hair and you can see the nose and big bushy beard. And I saw that face again another time, like a month later. It came to me while I was sitting in my car. But I got the message after she and I were talking about it that was her father in that lifetime. And I probably was a really, really looked down on for, having a child that was, yes, not pure in the eyes of those days.
Yeah, she would have been mixed race, right?
Exactly. So anyway, just a lot of like things that fit together about things that have happened that I've seen that, you think, oh, okay, I'm just crazy. That's not real, whatever.
So, Melissa, this is Chandra. For the listeners who may not know, because I know I only have like a 30,000 foot understanding of the Akashic Records. So I know that personally I would like to learn more, but can you give us like just a little bit more detail about exactly what they are and what we can use them for?
Absolutely. So I always tell people to think of the Akashic Records as a metaphysical library. The Akash actually means sacred space. So the records themselves are in the highest realm, closest to God, source, whatever it is you pray to. And so when I enter the records, I do see it. It's pure source gold. It's just brilliantly lit. But I do see it as actual rows and rows of records, books, which is every soul's book, every past, present, and future lifetime that they are going to live, including anything energetically that your soul will experience. So thoughts, emotions, right? Traumas. So as you can imagine, that's a lot of information that I am accessing at one time. However, that's when your guides come in because they're amazing at just filtering through and editing the information that you need to know at this point in your journey. So oftentimes, as Brenda had mentioned, past lives are brought up. And that is often to remind you about something about your soul and your reason for reincarnating in this lifetime, right? So loved ones often will come through as well. And they are super excited to reconnect with you and pass on their wisdom. But the beauty about, doing a reading in the Akashic realm is that it is everything, right? So if someone's coming for guidance and clarity and direction, it is probably the highest realm you could possibly access to gain that information. And not only that, just sitting within the energetic energy of the Akashic records themselves is healing. So anyone coming into that space with me, you're receiving downloads while we're, accessing your information. Right. Very cool. Awesome.
This is Alexandra, and you had talked about accessing the Akashic Records and seeing that golden light. Is that something anyone can do? Do you have to be trained to do it? Just for people who don't know what's,
Yeah, it's a frequency. So you access the Akashic realm through raising your own frequency and vibration and tapping in. I'm sure there's, people do it differently, but for myself personally, what I do is there's a huge prep time that goes into preparing me, right? My vessel and my frequency. I make sure that I am tapped in, I'm rooted and grounded to Mother Gaia, also connected to that beautiful source. And then I will go in, and when I say my prayer to enter the records, I literally see and feel myself rising and accessing that realm.
That's so cool. Beautiful feeling. Yes, absolutely.
By the way, just to also answer that question, anyone has the capability to do that. It's just through practice, right? Through making sure that you're meditating and connecting with not only your higher self, but that higher frequency of God, force, universe, whatever it is that you like to call it. And yeah, it's the most beautiful. I wish I could just make you guys feel it because it's the most loving energy you would ever experience. It's just amazing. I don't ever want to leave. It's
right. Yeah. I can so imagine. And you were talking about our guides meet you there. Mm-hmm. But does each person have a specific Akashic guide, or is it just like our guides in general?
Well, you have Akashic, so ascended masters. Okay. And so those are like, they've often been earthbound. Think of like, Jesus actually is an ascended master. Okay. And, anyone that has been earthbound and gone through a lot of karmic lessons and spiritual ascension, when they're in the spirit world, they are just like now holy, right? And filled with all this wisdom and guidance for us. So oftentimes, if it's something that you're going through that is requiring that level of guidance, often they'll come through for you in a reading. But then you have your guides, right? You have loved ones become guides, but also ourselves in other lifetimes. And I know that's hard to kind of wrap our head around, but it actually is true. We do guide ourselves because we become our oversoul, right? When we transition. And so it's kind of like we're a team. So in each lifetime that we live, we access these lessons and we go through them and gain this wisdom. And so then we are able to sort of come in and help each other when we reincarnate.
Hi, this is Chandra. Brenda and I would like to invite you as part of our podcast community to join us on either Facebook or Instagram Live each Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern U.S. time, where we give free oracle readings for fans of the show. Just follow us on our OMG podcast Facebook or Instagram page. You can post or DM us your questions there each week with the hashtag WooWooWisdom, and then tune in at 11 a.m. each Friday on our page to watch your free reading. If you can't join us live, don't worry. You can always catch it on the replay. This is just our way of saying thank you for being part of our Woo Woo family. Hope to see you this Friday.
I think that's really cool because I know that whenever I've done energy work with people, if they've had challenges in this lifetime, that sometimes I'll see past lifetime where they went through a similar thing and they can go in and like heal that part of themselves so that they can help themselves in the current lifetime.
Exactly. And for me, that was really my awakening moment when you talked about me, that woman in the green dress, because she is a guide. She's, hugely present in my spiritual guidance now, but she definitely awakened me and made me understand my soul's essence and made me understand that I am worthy and that because I remember seeing her from like the third person perspective and thinking how amazing and powerful she was. And then when she turned and it was me, I was just, I don't know, it was like just this instant, like, it's okay, you can love yourself,
That's great.
So, yeah, it was a beautiful moment.
I think it also brings up a really interesting thing about time and the fluidity of time when you were talking about entering the Akashic Records and, meeting your past self or future selves in that moment. So I think that's a really fun thing to go down the proverbial rabbit hole.
And also, I think, that's something that women struggle with so much, or maybe human beings in general, of feeling worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that moment of like clarity, like, look at her, it's me, and she was a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like it was so many lessons in a second for me, in that I knew that I was here for a reason and that I had gifts to share that were worthy of sharing. But, also to answer your question in regards to time, you're absolutely right. When you're dealing with the Akashic Records and they're discussing your past lifetimes, they'll also discuss future lifetimes. I see them. We are experiencing it all at the same time. Time is just a human thing that we created, and it doesn't exist in the Akashic realms. So we are experiencing all of our lifetimes at once. And I know that's like when I first heard that, I was like, wow, give me a second.
Huge explosion. I got pull back together.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I had another question, and it was really, you said that they're records of our, past lives, current, and future. So I guess, for lack of a better word, who writes that? Like, who records it? Do we, do the source, do our guardian angels or our guides? Like, or
That's an
that's
excellent question.
Who's the author?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, okay, well, that's two parts. So, as far as, as far as who records it, it's the realm itself
Okay.
that records it. It's the only way I describe it is like, like a computer, big like drive,
Right.
right? Because it's really picking up on our soul's frequency. That's what it's recording. It's kind of like our blue chip.
Oh,
Sense.
I like that.
Okay. Yeah. And so it records our blue chip. Everything that happens to us is being recorded. Every thought, every emotion, anything energetically that's happening is in that realm and in that record. But what was the second question? I had a second thought about this, and now I've lost the train of thought.
She said who was the author?
Author. Yeah.
Thank you.
Or describe. Yes.
Yes, thank you. We write our stories. So as souls, before we're up in our spirit world, and oftentimes we're taking courses and, trying to continue our spiritual journey. And then we will, before we reincarnate, whether it's earthbound or in another galaxy, we'll be like, you know what? I want to write my story this way because I want to learn these lessons. And then we take a look at our soul group and we go, it's just like writing a play. You're going to be the main character this time around, Mom, but you're not going to be my mom. You're going to be my daughter.
Yeah.
And right. And so we choose our roles. We choose the soul contracts. Those are biggies, right? And what I mean by that is we contract with each other to have either conflicts or lessons that we teach each other. Okay. And then we plan our birth, the time of birth, how we're going to be born. Are we going to be adopted? Are we going to be biologically, connected to our parents? And we also choose our exit, our transition, and how we want to do that. And you know what, you guys, I know you're probably going, I don't know about that one. But I thought that too. I always thought, God, it's God's plan. And he decides, but honestly, through readings and seeing these individuals explain to me exactly how they passed and how they wrote their passing. And so now I'm a believer.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get started?
That's a good question. How much time do you have?
Cliff notes. When did you go on your woo-woo journey?
Woo journey. And that's exactly what it was. My goodness. Okay. So I was in a very unhappy marriage for 21 years. And, by the end of it, honestly, did not want to be here anymore. I was like, let's just call it a day. And the only thing that kept me here was my beautiful children. I have 4.
No.
And
I got 4 kids too.
see,
I
know. That's why we're soul sisters.
That's right.
And so I, left the marriage. I worked up the courage to do so and sort of went on a reckless path from there. I certainly I'm calling myself damaged. I definitely had issues that I wasn't ready to face. And then I ended up having a job that just wasn't aligning with me at all. And I left it one day in tears, just like, I'm not going to go through the details of it, but it was very, very eye-opening. And it kind of was my last little push to heal myself.
Mm.
And so I began that journey, and I had a reading with a medium. And my grandfather came through and he was talking about my heart. And he said how it was just encased in concrete, and that I needed to seek out a healer to heal it. And so it took me a while to reach out. I was like, I don't know if I want to, like, how could she heal me? And anyways, I did. She ended up being an Akashic record reader.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which now I think, wow, that's how divine is that? And so she gave me a reading, and she also did a healing. And then from there, it just sparked my journey. I just began to start to like really do some nitty gritty shadow work. I worked with a shadow worker and started like pulling out all that, subconscious stuff, not only from this lifetime. The relationships that I chose were, like any typical empath, they were abusive, right?
Right.
And they just stomped over my heart. So I basically would, just this naive person would take it out and be like, there you go, put it in their hand and then watch it like, crumbled. So my response to that was just to put it in a case of concrete. So, but then that left everybody out, right?
Right.
Including myself. Yeah. So the journey actually began with when I went inward. I know that I was looking externally for love from people and it had permission, right? Because I figured, well, if they love me enough, then I'm worthy. But I understood finally that I actually had to go inward and begin to love myself and understand that in order for others to love me, I just have to love me and feel worthy. And not only that, worthy enough to choose me so that I would only accept the kind of love that I deserve. So,
People think like this healing journey is like I'm going to go to a healer and they're going to fix me and I'm going to be good. But just to give the listeners a scope, like how many years are we talking here?
Oh gosh, like at least 5 years, 6 years or more, probably, if I'm being honest. But the beauty of it was as I started to peel away, I always think of people as an onion when it comes to healing. And I started to kind of peel away the layers and I was getting to the root. And as I was doing that, I was opening myself to receiving that beautiful source energy. And then I was getting upgrades. My vibration was changing, my frequency was rising. And then that's when my gifts started to turn on. And I spent a lot of time in the forest. And my listeners that have probably have heard me talk about this are probably going to roll their eyes. But really, I'm like so attached to the earth and to forests in particular. And so I began to walk and feel the energy of the trees. And I began to like vibrate.
Brenda and I resonate with that. This is Rosalie here. So yeah, we definitely resonate with that too. That's
Good.
yes.
Yeah.
We get that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I talk to trees. Okay. I'm that crazy person.
I hug trees, so I will randomly hug a tree and people look at me like I'm nuts. But hey, I don't care.
Right.
Sharing that energy. So yeah.
They talk to you. They will tell me their story. They will tell me how happy they are. Do they like their community around them? Are they getting enough sunlight, enough water? How long have they been there? And they will often show me scenes of like ancestors that were there when they were growing. And it's amazing. It's a beautiful connection.
So this is Alexandra again. You were talking about like starting that initial journey. What some advice that you would give to people who are like, man, I know I need to start doing this, but I really don't want to. And this woman is saying it took her 5 years. What if it takes me like 7? So what is the best advice that you could give them? Like that first baby step.
Yeah, I want them to know that like, because I'm very stubborn, that's why it took me so long, right? And once I reached out to a healer, my journey took about a year, right? It was intensive, but that's why I'm always encouraging people to reach out to practitioners because we can speed the process up for you. Yeah, we have that. That's why I'm here. I know that now, right? I'm here to help you heal yourself so that you can be a beautiful open vessel to receive all that beautiful timelines and energy that you're meant to. So I don't want to discourage people and make you feel like it's going to be forever. It's going to be hard. Healing is hard and it's not ever finished. It's always an ebb and a flow, purging and feeling and releasing and then receiving, right? But for me, I got excited about it because I realized as much as it was difficult to, heal and see these things in my life that were these lessons that I wrote for myself. But at the same time, I knew if I did release them, more of my clairs would turn on. I would have more healing energy. And so I knew that it was kind of like a reward for me. It was like, well, if you do this, then you can receive, right?
Yeah. I would
You guys feel the same.
Oh, we feel it.
I'm the type of person who I used to really hate. No, and I didn't used to hate hard work, but I would kind of like grumble about it. And recently, in some other areas of my life, I've been and in the spiritual kind of self work area. I'm like, you know what? It's gonna be hard. It might suck for a moment, but it's gonna be great. So I might as well just jump in and love the hard work. And just
Yeah. And not only that, I became really addicted to the frequency of my higher self. I don't know about you guys, but I just like love that Zen feeling I would get when I would come out of a deep meditation. Because I was meditating, like I would do like activations and meditation, sometimes like an hour, 2 hours a day. And I would come out and I would just be like, oh, I really don't want to be here on earth. I'd rather just stay in that beautiful Zen state, right? Because that's healing unto itself. It's just
Absolutely.
yeah.
So I do have, this is Chandra, by the way. I do have another question. I've only had one Akashic reading in my life. And, there's, when we start talking about, healers and light workers and spiritual practices, there are always those among us who have the best of intentions and have the best of connection. And there are also those among us who are questionable, let's just say. And the reading that I got was it was lovely, but it was very generic. Just like, there's a lot of light around you. Lovely. Thank you. But what's the next step on my healing journey? Because, I want the light too, but I'm here for help. So is there any kind of advice that you could give the listener as to, if they choose an Akashic reader for themselves, like to understand, does this person really have a connection? Is this person really in my records? Is this person, legitimately giving me the information from my higher self and from my past lives that I need at this moment?
Yeah, exactly. And it's unfortunate, isn't it? But, as in any trade, there's always those that might not be as authentic as we hope. But certainly, if you are having, first of all, I want to say, I believe that anyone that comes to me for a reading is divinely led. And I believe that if you set the intention and say, hey, please guide me towards, a reader that is meant for me, you will be guided. Now, that being said, if you're having a reading, especially the Akashic Records, they should be able to tell you specifics, right? They should be able to, you should be having lots of goosebump moments because they are tapping into your soul's essence and they're describing past lives. But not only that, they should be able to describe timelines for you and things that are happening in your day-to-day life, right?
Right. So it would be evidence-based, just like any other reading.
Yeah. So, oftentimes, not only that, your guide should be answering your questions before you even ask them, because it's a telepathic realm, right? And so they know why you're there. They were the ones that led you to go to the reading. And the reader should telepathically be picking up on, because I oftentimes will be like, oh, okay, I know you were just thinking that, or you want to know about work. And it's because it's a telepathic realm. And so you should feel like you're being seen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's actually a very beautiful way to say it, to express that. That's exactly what it should be like.
Yeah, like you're being seen and you're being held in this loving embrace the entire time. It's just the most unconditional, non-judgmental place that you could possibly be in. It's basically in God's hands.
Well, I'll tell you something, Miss Melissa Sparrow. I've already decided I'm going to get a reading from you. I love your I love this wonderful pinkish aura around you. And mine is from Prosecco, but yours is not.
Wow, you guys, I wished it was from that.
Well, we are celebrating the Gemini birthdays in the group today. So We turn every recording into a little bit of a party. It's
Oh, I love that. Happy birthday. Who are the birthday people?
Chandra and Brenda. Yeah, my
birthday too?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Happy birthday, you guys.
Thank you. So if people want to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
Well, they can head to my website, which is melissasparrow.com, which has all the information on my services, and they can book directly on there as well. Or I'd love if you would join me on Instagram at Melissa Sparrow Healing. I'm always open to messages too. If you have questions about services
Melissa, you would chuckle because everybody that's off camera right now from you
is getting their
phone just like came up.
That's awesome. Really when Brenda first told us about it, I was like, I want to not stalk this woman, but stalk this woman. So I just love your Instagram content. It's so much fun to watch, and you have such a great personality. So Hannah, probably just thinking a reading with you because it just sounds so wonderful, and I want to definitely experience that and do some
deep dives. Deep dives.
Deep dives. Yeah.
Tell them Ohm-g'ers sent you. That's all I got to say.
That's right.
That's awesome. For those of you at home who are listening and have enjoyed this conversation as much as we have, please tune in to the next episode release because it's going to be part 2 of our discussion with Melissa Sparrow.
Yeah, we're going to talk about light language healing work and healing work in general.
Part 2.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, you guys, for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
It has been for us as well, Melissa. And it's definitely a pleasure getting to meet you and getting to speak with you today.
Thank you for joining us today. Please follow and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a review. It's so easy to do and such a huge help for us. We appreciate your interactions so much. Want to join us at our table? Make sure to check out our YouTube channel and join our Facebook community. If you've enjoyed this content and wish to support us, take a look at our Patreon page. All information and links will be in our podcast description. Catch you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.